Chicago Day. I'm Alex Globerson. I'm a Chicago-based reproductive justice activist, and I'm currently organizing with the local chapter of IfNotNow. In this moment of a lot of grief and a lot of suffering, I'm really grateful to be based in a city that has a thriving network of grassroots organizers and activists who are all fighting to create a better world. And in this moment, it's really important that those communities are coming together in solidarity with Palestinian people so that we can use our collective voices, our collective power to call for a ceasefire, an end to the genocide, and peace for the Palestinian people. So in that spirit, let's get things going. I'm really excited to introduce you to these lovely folks I have next to me who are all part of this community and are all working to leverage their voices. I'm gonna kick it to Skye to get us started.
Hi, my name is Skye, and I'm born and raised in Chicago, and now I'm a junior at Brown University, and I would first just like to say how honored I am to be here, especially surrounded by Chicago activists whom I admire so much, and I'm really grateful to be able to share this stage that I've basically been on since I was born, and it's an incredible privilege.
Peace and power to all of you. My name is Reverend Tanya Lozano Washington. I am the daughter of Emma Lozano and Reverend Slim Coleman, and also the niece of Rudy Lozano. I have to say that all of that to explain who I am. I am the founder and one of the chair people at Healthy Hood Chicago, located on the southwest side in Pilsen, and I'm also the pastor at Holy Ground, and I'm also very honored to be here, always honored to be in the presence of the legendary Reverend Jesse Jackson. And this is such an important topic and a very, very vital time in Chicago, so this is an important conversation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Itai. I'm here as a representative of Shoresh. It's a new organization of anti-Zionist Israelis who live in the U.S. We see it as very important to help with the struggle for free Palestine from wherever we are. We think that our position as Israelis and kind of our knowledge and our experience on the ground and connection with people in Palestine and Israel really could help the growing, this amazing growing movement to liberate Palestine, and that has been growing so much in the U.S. We have a chapter here that is growing here in Chicago, where a lot of us came from JVP as well, and got to know each other and saw that we have a unique perspective to offer, and we're very grateful that to have a space here to talk and to reach out to people and offer really our experience and our connections that could be helpful for the movement as well.
Hey, family. Oh, y'all could do better than that. Hey, family. I'm Kina Collins. I hail from the best side, the west side of the city. I'm not trying to start no trouble. I'm not trying to start no stuff. But I'm so honored to be here with my siblings in the movement and in the presence of an icon, a Q dog. So from a Delta to a Q dog. Ooh. We know what time it is when the Deltas and the Qs link up. I am an organizer. I'm a survivor of everyday gun violence. I'm a candidate for Congress in the Illinois 7th Congressional District. Some of you followed our primary in the last election cycle. We lost by one city ward, but I'm not just here for the campaign. I'm here because if your elected officials and your stakeholders aren't standing on this side, they're on the wrong side. They're not on the people's side. And so this is an accountability metric, and that's what PUSH has always been to the community. I'm very proud. I got introduced to Alex and all the good folks at INN and Jewish Voice for Peace. We got arrested at Ogilvie Transportation Station. 130 plus people calling for the liberation of the Palestinian people. And honestly, I feel so rooted in gratitude that how dare I not participate in this movement that's happening now. Because when I see the children in Gaza, the young people who are being slaughtered by state-sanctioned violence, how can I not see Trayvon? How can I not see Rakia? How can I not see Laquan? And so we have an obligation. And it was in that moment, that wasn't the first time I've been arrested at a protest, but it was in that moment that we sat, 14 hours at Cook County Jail, that I realized we weren't criminals in that moment, we were freedom fighters. And so we're gonna reshape the language in this movement. We're not gonna allow people to manipulate us and dictate us in what is going on right now. We can see what is going on. And so I'm just so honored to be, and my heart is so full to be here with you. But this is a moment of accountability for all of us. Thank you.
You know, it's so bad to go last when you have phenomenal statements coming before you from 4 different individuals. I don't know what else to add, but I would say this. Well, first of all, my name is Tarek Khalil. I'm a Chicago board member of American Muslims for Palestine. I'm also the education coordinator, and for the past 3 months plus, I've been throughout this state to various communities to provide what I believe was missing glaringly from our mainstream press. One word: context. And when you watch mainstream news, all you hear is a decontextualization of the history, a decontextualization of the present, and offering the wrong prescriptions for the future. Well, obviously that will come naturally. If you don't understand the history and if you don't understand the context, obviously your solutions will not be based in reality, or they will not be based in truth, and will not be based in fact. And as a Palestinian from Jerusalem, from Al-Quds, Silwan, a heavily Judaized area, I was in Palestine. I visited my family, I visited my homeland, I visited my home. And it's been decades since I've been back, but with the visa waiver program, I took advantage of whatever offerings I have to go back to my homeland and to go pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque and to be around my family. It was such a wonderful time for me. And when I came back a week or 2 later, this all unfolded. And I just want to spend a minute, and I want to give a 101 context that I believe a lot of us here understand, but if we can educate others, they can see it for what it truly is. This is not 90 plus days of oppression. This is 75 years of forcible displacement, ethnic cleansing, dispossession, displacement, lack of self-determination, denial of basic rights guaranteed under international law, 56 years of a brutal military occupation, 16 years of a brutal siege and blockade in itself is collective punishment. And the people of Gaza, 80% of whom are refugees, kicked out of their homelands in 1948, denied the right to return to their homelands. These are minimalist demands. We Palestinians, when we demand our rights, we're not demanding something extreme. We're not demanding something that is out of line. We're demanding what is rightfully ours, and that should not be put forth at the negotiating table. That should be implemented right now as I speak. Palestinians are just like any other human being. We are only demanding that we have the basic rights that every other human being is entitled to. And if we're deprived of that, then we have the right to demand it over and over again. And do not tell us. And that's why I appreciate the solidarity movement, because we are neck and neck with one another. Colonialism, imperialism is not foreign to the black tradition. It is in line with the black tradition. And we resonate with the black struggle against police brutality, institutional discrimination, and so on. And I love to see all different tribes, all different colors here today. This is just a wonderful scene right here. Thank you so much.
So I think a huge theme of today has been drawing between our interconnected struggles. We have Jewish voices, we have Palestinian voices, but we also have allies in this struggle on the stage together. So my question for you is, can you describe, if you are not Jewish and Palestinian, a little bit more about your connection to this struggle? And I would love to hear from everyone something that is a challenge in the last 3 months, and then also give us a little seed of hope, a little positive shift, because I think personally from my perspective, I've seen tremendous movement and tremendous coming together, and how can we build on that? I'd love to hear from you.
So at Brown University, I am the student head of diversity, equity, inclusion, representing 7,000 undergraduate students, ranging from the myriad of diversity that we have on campus. And first, I would like to note how much of a privilege it is to be able to use my voice, because many of my international student friends, their voices are minimized. They don't have that privilege, and it's really scary out there right now for students. And so what we're seeing on university campuses, on mine and all over the United States, is that it's dangerous to stand up for peace, for morality, for justice, to call for a ceasefire, to call for the end of the indiscriminate lives that are being lost right now. That's dangerous. One of our students, Hisham, got shot over Thanksgiving break visiting his grandmother's home with his 2 other Palestinian friends, speaking Arabic and wearing a keffiyeh. He's now paralyzed. And 42 of our students, Jewish, Palestinian, Arab, Muslim, Black, have been arrested more than at any other school in the country for sitting in at University Hall, calling for Brown to divest in its investments in ethnic cleansing, genocide, and war crimes in Gaza. What we are seeing is both a positive impact of mass mobilization from our people calling for a ceasefire, but we're also seeing an unprecedented threat and challenge of mass oppression, threat to freedom of speech, for justice and peace, doxing, intimidation, and so much more. Our freedoms are inextricably combined on campus and in this city, and I'm so grateful to be here to learn more about the ways that this has really been impacting our activists in Chicago.
Great answer. Our struggles has always been interconnected. I speak for the Latino community. I'm Mexican. Half of this country was Mexico, may I remind you. Colorado, California, Texas, that was our territory. This is a very familiar place that we're in right now in history. It's important for us not just to remind ourselves, right, that what is happening globally is affecting us locally. It's in our faces right now. I think what is really inspiring to me right now was I grew up in social justice, right, given who my family is that we've been talking about the way that this country's global policy has affected how we live our lives here in this country. Specifically, when we think about the migrant crisis, everybody's talking about the migrant crisis right now. And we're failing to connect the dots here on how that plays into the grand scheme of the political game of this country. The migrant crisis is a federal issue of the federal government's making. They've been sanctioning Venezuela, Cuba for a long time, and now we're seeing the effects of that here. And it's just another way to divide and conquer, because we're seeing that the right-wing Republicans are sending the migrants, basically human trafficking by definition, to where there are Black progressive mayors, sanctuary cities. Because we think about where Chicago is right now. We just saw a historical campaign to elect Mayor Brandon Johnson here. A historical campaign where people of all races, of all religions came together to elect him. Now, you don't think that the right wing noticed that? That they saw us in this great unity and said, we got to do something about this? They're playing politics. And we should know better by now. We should stop drinking the Kool-Aid and understand what kind of game is being played with us. We know that we have people power here. And this is a great time for us right now, because for the first time in a long time, I hear people talking about global policy. We're not living in this little bubble anymore. You know what I mean? It's time to really gain the power that we have as people and demand what we want. Yes, we want a ceasefire, but we want to free Palestine. We want land back. You know, we can organize with each other. I've been noticing just young people. There's a global awakening of a conscience happening now. We're not just connected in the city of Chicago, but we're connected all around the world now. And we have so much potential power. I think one of the challenges that we've been facing is it's easy to mobilize in times of crisis, right? Because the momentum is there. We saw that in 2020. Now, where we sometimes, I think, fall short is in organizing, right? Now is the time. If you have a local community organization or you got a church, now is the time to be building cadres, to be having consistent political and popular education, to be making sure that you're talking to artists and creatives so that their music is reflective of the demands that we have as a people. We're starting to see that wave. Now, we can complain all day and night about the media and how they're not shining the light on the right things, but we don't need to be supporting those media platforms anymore. We should be supporting the young people. Like my sister said, the TikTokers are doing a better job, you know, than CNN, right? We should be supporting these young people so that we can grow the movement. I think the challenge right now is how are we going to sustain this? Because the movement comes in waves, and we like to say when the tide is high, sometimes we drown. Right? We have to make sure we're using that momentum and creating sustainable ways to organize so that we can continue this fight, because it doesn't end with a ceasefire. That's the bare minimum. We want to free Palestine, so that means we have a long way to go and we have a lot of organizing to do. So this is also a time where we're like crossing all of these invisible lines of separation. We come from Chicago. This is the history of the Rainbow Coalition with Chairman Fred Hampton. This is Rainbow Push with the legendary Reverend Jesse Jackson. We have a history of unity here. Although that may not be the thing that gets highlighted in history, that's who we are. That is our language of Chicago. So it's time to let go of all the petty conflicts that happen in organizing and start to really work together. There are always going to be differences, but we can get past those differences and make sure that we're all heading in the right direction. So it's time to come together. It's time to work together. And this room should be filled with young people. This place should be filled with young people. So it's time to bring them into the conversation and start to blur the lines between like the generations, because we have so much to learn from the generation before us. And the generation before us has so much to learn from the young people. It's time to be creating consistent spaces where that dialogue happens, not just in times of crisis, although that is very necessary, but where is the consistency? Where are the systems and structures of communication so that we can continue to have this dialogue past just when we're in a time of crisis?
I would just quickly say, because I know you got to get to your other question. The sister was preaching, so I didn't want to stop her. But Black liberation, we're talking about imperialism. So how are we connected? We're connected because in the Black community, and I can speak for the Black community because I was born Black, I'm gonna die Black, right? Is that we know what a land grab is. We know what police state-sanctioned violence is. And so when you tell me that you're fighting a war against Hamas, but you're bombing the West Bank and Bethlehem, I have some questions. When you tell me that we don't have money for universal health care or student loan debt, or, you know, grandma has to ration out her insulin and cut the blood pressure pills in half, but you're usurping the power of our Congress and sending executive orders to send millions of dollars for war, I have questions. And so this is interconnected and interlinked, and I think the emerging thing that is happening is that we are asking those questions now. And you cannot just skate and slide and come into candidates forums or anything and people aren't going to ask you those questions. And so I just encourage the people in this room to remain bold and steadfast and really use your voice, even if it shakes, and all the tables that you're sitting at. You know, our sister talked about Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton said, you can jail the revolutionary, you'll never jail the revolution. And so the revolution, this is what we're seeing. We're seeing a generation of millennials. For example, I was born in 1991. All I've ever known in my life was war. From the Gulf War to Afghanistan to Iraq to now. We've never known peace in this generation. And so I think that that's where it's interconnected in our emerging bright light, is that the masses are waking up and we are holding an accountability metric.
Yeah. Itai?
As a person who grew up in Jerusalem, so I know it very well, I really hope to, with Shoresh, to help bridge the Israeli left, the anti-Zionist left, with the American one. I think the Israeli left has a lot to learn from the American left, and vice versa. I think there are a lot of things going on the ground. I can just give one example, just because Tarek mentioned that his family is from Silwan. I've known many people from Silwan through my years of working just in kitchens and hotels, and my partner, who is from New York City, came to visit with her parents in Jerusalem, where they are able to visit while Palestinians who are from Jerusalem cannot. And they asked me, what should we see? I said, I had the perfect idea, and I took them to see Silwan, because there's a small group of Israeli archaeologists who oppose all the archaeological work that is being done there, that is basically instrumentalizing archaeology to ethnically cleanse Silwan and kick everybody out and put Jewish settlers there. So they have these tours where they show all the archaeological findings and challenge those stories that they tell through those findings. And they connect people with Palestinians who live in Silwan, and they meet people who live there and suffer the very often and consistent violence from police and military police, and see for themselves how difficult life is for people in Silwan. That's just one neighborhood in Jerusalem. And since they've been there, they told me they never looked back and never considered Zionism as a kind of legitimate ideology. And it was just that simple. They weren't from Jerusalem, but they understood very well. And I think these kind of connections are very important. People have ongoing relationships, Jewish Israelis and Palestinian Israelis, and Palestinians in Jerusalem and the West Bank and Gaza. And people are working together for free Palestine, and have been doing that for since the first Zionist settlers arrived over 100 years ago to Palestine. And there's a rich tradition from which I consider myself coming from, and I think there's a lot we can offer in experience, in connections, and in just in culture and kind of like ways of overcoming these differences. And I think, of course, there's a lot to learn from the American left, and especially in Chicago. I'm so proud to be here and so happy to be able to connect with all the activists here and the people who are really trying to change the world. It's been so long, and I mean, I grew up in Jerusalem. I lived there till I was 30, and I saw it with my own eyes. It's not stories, it's real. Like, these are real people. Like, people in Gaza are really dying. It's parents, it's children, it's people like us. It's not over there. For us as Israelis especially, we feel that we have to do something. We don't have the luxury of saying, well, Israelis, because you're Israelis, you shouldn't be involved. As Israelis who really believe in anti-Zionism and the right for people to live in dignity in their own land, we strongly feel that we have to do something. And after October, we just have to come together. We all been working for years already in our own kind of groups and been involved in various ways in the struggle, but now we want to come together and join forces and come and offer what we can for the movement. And it's it's really important for us. Yeah. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tarek?
I was told I only have 3 minutes, so I have to be brief. Everybody here is preaching, so I'll do my best. You know, as a Palestinian, I found it my duty to understand my history better than anybody else. That's non-Palestinian at least. Because if I want to tell my story, I can't just tell my personal experience, I also have to tell my people's experience. And my people's experience, especially in relation to the other, is rooted in Zionism. And Zionism as a concept, Zionism as a project, as a settler colonial project, this is something that is terribly misunderstood in the United States, but there's been a growing shift, and I believe that the understanding of the American people is coming closer to the proper understanding of Zionism as a settler colonial project. And this is how we understand Silwan. This is how you understand Gaza. This is how you understand the West Bank. This is how you understand the Palestinian collective and the rights that Palestinians are demanding. If you don't understand how Zionism contributed to that, how the founding fathers of Zionism and the project of Zionism and the Israeli state, the foundational ideology of which is Zionism, then you can never really understand the Palestinian experience. And usually I like to present this in terms of elements. As a lawyer, we study things in terms of elements, so I think this is the proper way to present Zionism. It is rooted in 3 fundamental elements, and that is conquest, dispossession, and the ingathering of the exiles. Capture the land, get rid of the native population, and install a new people on the ruins of that population and on the ruins of their homeland. So when you try to normalize subsequently, after you've achieved as much as you can from those objects, and then you tell the Palestinians, well, now it's time for you to negotiate. Why don't you sit down and negotiate? As we suppress you, as we oppress you, as we subjugate you, as we keep taking more of your lands, as we keep denying you basic rights guaranteed under international law, we will keep putting our feet on your necks and tell you to come down to the negotiating table and negotiate a 2-state solution, negotiate whatever solution you want, as we continue to racially dominate you, as we continue to impose an apartheid regime on you. That is why when I watch mainstream press and other media try to purposely, I believe, mischaracterize the meaning of the slogan, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. My dear sister Rashida Tlaib, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian sister in Congress today, was censured because of a phrase like that. Well, let me offer the proper explanation for that phrase. That's my Jewish brother over here. It has nothing to do with Jews. It has to do with the removal of an apartheid regime and an apartheid policy structure that is rooted in violence and racism. And this form of racism, this form of racial domination exists to varying degrees of intensity throughout the entire area of historic Palestine. And when we say Palestine, by the way, historic Palestine encompasses the areas known as the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, and West Jerusalem, Gaza, and what is modern-day Israel. So when you ask me the question, oh, you don't, by doing that, that means that you don't recognize Israel's existence. Of course I do. How could I not recognize the very entity that uprooted my family and my people? How could I not recognize the very entity that is denying my people the right to return to their homes? How could I not recognize? That will be foolish of me to not recognize reality. What do you think we've been fighting for the last 75 years? We've been fighting against the settler colonial apartheid regime known as Israel. I acknowledge that that is the entity that is blocking the path to justice and peace. And that is the view of the Palestinians. This is part of the rich Palestinian intellectual tradition. And I tell you all, when you read the various reports, and there's going to be a lot more coming, but the ones relating to apartheid from Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights organization, read them for content, read them for the stats and the data to understand the history of the oppression of the Palestinian people, but don't come away with their framework of these human rights organizations. I want you to come away with the Palestinian framework. The Palestinian framework, in short, says the following. And if you read, for example, the Human Rights Watch report, the title of it is "A Threshold Crossed." Means that implies something necessarily. That implies that after so many years of discriminatory laws, Israel has become an apartheid regime. That's not the Palestinian intellectual tradition. The Palestinian intellectual tradition says Israel was founded as an apartheid regime and only grew in intensity these last 75 years. So this is how you understand the Palestinian experience. And this is how you understand the demands of the Palestinians. And if you understand that in scope, then suddenly you stop asking the question, why October 7th? You start asking the question, why October 6th and 5th in 2021 and 2020 and 2019 and 2015 and 1967 and 1956 and then you start going back, and these are the questions you start asking yourself, because it'll put the last 90 plus days in its proper context.
I know you got to rap. I know we got to rap, but we can't. I mean, the brother got me so fired up, y'all. Because we can't leave this panel without talking about structural violence. It's not just bombs dropping, and it's not just people being killed. It's what he just laid out was that this is systematic. And this is important and pertinent to the conversation as we talk about the stakeholders, particularly who are in this room, because the American government is funding 16% of the Israeli military budget. So what does that mean for lobbyist groups like AIPAC that come in and can sway elections? That means that we have to do our due diligence to say that lobbyists and corporations are not individuals. They do not represent how we feel about our Palestinian siblings in this movement and how we will fight and show up for them. So I know we're gonna do, you know, what's one of the additional homework assignments that I'm gonna give to y'all is look at your elected official and where they are bringing their money in from. Follow the money. Because, and just like we talk about frameworks of deconstructing violence in the city of Chicago, and we can't police poverty away, we're not going to be able to put ourselves in a war to bring peace forth. That's not peace and security. That's bringing more violence.
All right. So, in wrapping up, we're based in Chicago. I want to talk about the Chicago ceasefire resolution, which is going to be going forth for City Council on January 24th. I am really honored to have so many organizations who are pushing for that, including people on the stage. There are 90 aldermanic and mayoral staffers leading the way, and 130 local Chicago organizations helping to make Chicago one of the biggest cities to pass a ceasefire resolution. Yeah. Skye, can you tell us a little bit about how all these fine folks can get connected to resources?
Yes. Okay, so one thing that you can do is you can follow the Instagram account. What is it, Alex?
Chicago Progressive Staffers.
And this resolution is happening on January 24th, and the account is led by aldermanic and mayoral staffers and has the support of over 130 local organizations. They have an extremely easy toolkit that you can use and you can open up and follow the account Chicago Progressive Staffers, and you can easily contact your alder people to sign on to call for the baseline of a ceasefire.
Yep, call them, right? Right, but most importantly, I think that you need to educate your neighbors. The relational organizing piece is the strongest piece of that, because really we know the only way that aldermen move is if their constituents start flooding their office, right? So it's great for you to do it, but if you can get 5 of your friends and they can get 5 of their friends to do it, then we can get this thing passed, so.
I just want to add one thing, and I'm sure you will hear from other groups claiming to represent Jews in Chicago, saying that this is an anti-Semitic resolution. Obviously, don't believe them. They also don't represent all the Jews in Chicago, not even a little bit. I think that obviously there is a lot of importance for this resolution, and we hope to keep pressuring the political leaders wherever they are here in the U.S. to call for a ceasefire, stop sending weapons to Israel, and stop the death that is happening right now in Gaza. And never have Israelis been safe when Palestinians were killed. My family is over there. We disagree on a lot of things, but I think that for their safety as well, we need to stop this war, and we need to liberate Palestine. It's simple. It's never been safe for Israelis even. Definitely not for Palestinians. So don't believe them when they say it's anti-Semitic. It's not. It's ridiculous, and keep supporting it, because we have to push this through.
Thank you so much. So everyone, your homework is to check on your Congress folks, see who they're accepting money from, and please call your alders, tell your friends, your neighbors, your parents, everybody to call their alder person. You can check on Chicago Progressive staffers very easily if your alder is already signed on as a co-sponsor, and if they are not, there are scripts available on that Instagram account. There is an email action. They have everything that you need, and we really need the entire city to show up so that our collective voices, all of our different backgrounds, identities, organizations can push this through. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone, for an incredible day today, and thank you to this incredible panel. We are wrapping up early so that folks can have the opportunity to find their way to the snow. Reverend Jackson, I will stop. The other Jackson. Okay, we're going to wrap up at this point so that folks can get home early, given the weather. We're starting tomorrow with an incredible session at 10 a.m. And we're going to go until 2. There's so much more to be done. I so appreciated the way you all wrapped up with homework for us. We're going to get homework tomorrow. So please make sure, for those of you that are watching with us virtually, we're starting at 10 a.m., concluding at 2. I'm going to turn the microphone over.
Give us a big hand, everybody. So I am somebody. I am somebody. Respect me, protect me, never neglect me. I am somebody. My mind is a pearl and anything in the world. I am God's child. Stop the violence. Save the children. Stop the violence. Save the children. Free Palestine. Now. Yeah. All the panelists today, you've been so good. I've learned so much being with you today. I want to thank our Chief Operating Officer, Yusef Jackson.